A Netflix documentary is shining a spotlight on a local murder, highlighting the death and life of Carrie Farver. She was killed by Liz Golier in 2012.
I see you made it home. Too bad about the window. The email popped up on Dave's phone just as he stepped through his front door. His stomach twisted, the window was shattered, cold air slipping in. He understood that someone had been here, watching and waiting. And for months, the haunting and disturbing texts and emails never stopped. Hundreds, thousands of them. Carrie Farver was everywhere and threatening everyone. She was just so tech-savvy that she kept on doing what she wanted. And everyone, including police, just stayed helpless. But there was just one problem. No one has seen Carrie Farver for years. Some said she had covered her location using technology. But is it real true? Why is Carrie doing this to everyone? Or is it not Carrie at all? If so, what's the purpose of doing all these? In this case, the line between the original reality and the made-up reality will get blurred slowly. And that's what is the main cover-up of the real culprit. But who is that? What other crimes did that person do? And dead or alive, and guilty or not guilty? Where is Carrie Farver actually? You see, questions are many, but the answers we need to investigate. And while we jump into that, don't forget to subscribe to this channel to provide us motivation to our work going. It all started in Omaha, Nebraska, back in 2012. Dave Krupa was a guy who liked to keep things simple, fixing cars, spending time with his kids, and enjoying his freedom. After a long, complicated relationship with Amy, who was the mother of his children, he was done with commitment. They had been together for over a decade, but Dave never put a ring on it, no matter how much Amy wanted him to. You see, for that reason, we also never called Amy his wife. Anyway, eventually the relationship fell apart, and he moved to Omaha to stay close to his kids only. With no strings attached, he again started dipping his toes into the online dating world, scrolling through Plenty of Fish, looking for some casual fun. And that's where he met her, Liz Golier. At first glance, she seemed like a good match, age appropriate, 2 kids of her own, ran her own cleaning business, independent and put together. They went on a few dates and it was fine, nothing too serious. But Liz, she wanted more, a lot more. She wasn't just interested in casual meetups, she wanted all of Dave. If you think that's a red flag, the biggest problem was that she never handled rejection well. Liz had a habit of showing up unannounced, and slowly, her quick visits turned into hours. If Dave was busy, she'd find a way to make herself part of his plans. She clung to him, always pushing for something more. And when he spent time with his own kids, she hated it. She wanted to be the center of his world, and if she couldn't be, she made sure he knew she wasn't happy about it. The math is easy here. Dave started feeling suffocated. He liked his freedom, and Liz was closing in fast. By Halloween, he finally had enough. He told her straight this wasn't working. They weren't a couple, and they would never be. He expected a little frustration, maybe some hurt feelings, but what he never expected at all was what came next. Liz was straight out of his life. Honestly, we must admit that it's pretty unlikely in her case. Anyway, for a brief moment, things seemed to go back to normal. Dave went back to dating around, working at the auto shop and living his life. Then, out of nowhere, he met someone new, Carrie Farver. She walked into his shop one day, and there was something about her. She was confident, easygoing, and didn't seem interested in anything serious. It was exactly what Dave wanted. They hit it off right away. A few dates in, Carrie even spent the night at his place. Everything was falling into place. As she left in the morning after she stayed over, Dave got a text from her. But something was off. The message was strange, out of character. It said she wanted to move in with him. After just a few dates, that didn't sound like the woman he had met. When he told her no, things escalated fast. The texts kept coming. Long, angry rants, accusations, threats. It was like Carrie had become a completely different person overnight. And suddenly, Amy, Dave's ex, started getting messages too, and so did Liz. Those were some horrible and cruel messages from Carrie. It seemed like she was obsessed with Dave, hated his ex, and wanted to ruin Liz's life. The texts never stopped pouring in at all hours, and soon the messages weren't enough. Someone was watching him, someone was following him. But who and why? And most importantly, why was Carrie suddenly behaving in this manner? Carrie was a smart, independent woman and had a sharp mind for computers. She was raising her son, Max, on her own while putting herself through school. Life hadn't been easy for her. She struggled with depression, but she had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and was managing it well with medication. She had a steady job in Omaha, and by all accounts, she was doing well. But something changed after the night of November 13th, 2012. It was a Tuesday. Dave and Carrie walked into his apartment laughing about something trivial. Then, the doorbell rang. He opened it, and there stood his ex, Liz. As we said before, she always comes unannounced. But that night she wasn't there to cause a scene, but just to pick up a few things she had left behind. It was simply a brief, awkward exchange, and then she was gone. No big deal. Carrie didn't seem to mind either. She had made it clear from the start. This wasn't serious. Dave was more than fine with that, but something about her pulled him in. The more time they spent together, the more he found himself wanting more. And whether she realized it or not, she had a hold on him. After that morning, he left early for work while she lounged on the couch in her pajamas. She said she'd head out soon, too, nothing unusual. Until a few hours later, Dave was in the middle of work when his phone buzzed, and a message from Carrie that she wanted him to move in with her. The suddenness of it caught him off guard. He hesitated, then responded. It was too soon. And then, out of nowhere, her tone flipped. She didn't take no for an answer. Her messages came in fast, furious, and unhinged. She told him she never wanted to see him again. The texts didn't stop. They became cruel, erratic, and relentless. It didn't make sense. Just the night before, she had been calm, affectionate, the same Carrie he had been growing attached to. And now, she was acting like a completely different person. Something was off. Dave brushed it aside, told himself it was for the best. He hadn't let himself get too attached. Or at least, that's what he tried to convince himself. But something about it started disturbing him. Because after that day, he indeed got texts from Carrie. But Carrie Farver was never seen again. It started the morning she was last seen. She logged into Facebook early like usual, then logged off at exactly 6:42 a.m. But then at 9:45 a.m., she popped back on, just to unfriend Dave. That was it. No post or no explanation, just a single deliberate action. That same morning, halfway across the world in Macedonia, Carrie's mother, Nancy, started getting a barrage of texts. Carrie said she was leaving, moving to Kansas for a new job. She'd be back, she assured her, for a family wedding. And then she mentioned breaking up with Dave, plus checking herself into a mental hospital. It was all over the place. Nancy read the texts, trying to piece together what was happening. It wasn't news to get that Carrie had struggled with mental health issues before, but something about this felt wrong. She had seemed fine just days ago. Then what changed? For a while, Nancy kept texting, asking for more details, for a phone call, anything to prove Carrie was okay. But Carrie never answered. She just kept sending messages, and none of them made any sense. To Nancy, the whole picture was like this. Carrie was saying she was in Kansas with Dave. The next, they were broken up, but then she had lost her job but found a new one. Then she had sold all her stuff. Then she was back with Dave, but then suddenly he hated everyone. You see, there was no pattern, no logic, just pure chaos. And on the other hand, to Dave so far, the picture was this. And one night, Dave came home only to find his window shattered. Glass shards glittered on the floor, the cold night air slipping in through the jagged opening. But that wasn't the worst part. His phone buzzed, a new email from Carrie. I see you made it home. Too bad about the window. His stomach twisted. She had been here, but how? And more importantly, why? Weeks earlier, it had all started with messages. At first, just texts, then emails, then something far worse. Carrie wasn't just reaching out to Dave, she was watching him. She was watching Liz. It was like she was everywhere, like CCTV. The first real sign that things had gone completely off the rails came when Liz found something in her garage. The message was scrawled in paint, bold, taunting. It wasn't just a threat. It was a warning. Someone had been inside. Someone had walked into her space, stood there long enough to leave a message, and then disappeared into the night. And Carrie made sure Liz knew exactly who it was. I'm out in your garage. So what should I do to your car? Then came the pictures. Liz opened her messages to find images of her own garage staring back at her. So Carrie wasn't just breaking in, she was proud of it. She wanted Liz to know that she could come and go as she pleased, and she wasn't stopping there. At the same time, Dave's phone wouldn't stop lighting up with messages. Some were oddly normal, as if Carrie was trying to convince him she was still the woman he had briefly dated. Others were filled with pure venom, like, "That bitch Liz, you shouldn't be with someone like her." And then right after, "I hope we can see each other soon." Soon turned out to be much sooner than Dave could have ever imagined. He'd be sitting at home, watching TV, trying to ignore the chaos, when his phone would buzz. An SMS came that read, "Enjoy that basketball game, that beer looks good." She was watching, always watching. And then she escalated further. One night, Dave opened an email and felt his blood run cold. "You will do exactly as I say, and then I will let her go," read the email from Liz. The rest of the email basically claimed that Carrie had kidnapped Liz. And if Dave wanted her back, there was only one way: dump Liz, start seeing me again. Do it, or say goodbye to her. Attached to the message was a photo, a woman tied up, bound, and helpless. Dave stared at it, his mind racing. Was this real? Was Carrie capable of this? He didn't respond, he didn't fall for the bait. But the messages didn't stop. And then, that night at Amy's house, another email. That night when he got home, he saw the shattered window. It meant that Carrie had been inside, or had she? Because the moment police started looking into it, the entire story took a heavy twist. A truck was just sitting there, parked, abandoned, like someone had left in a hurry and never looked back. When Dave spotted it, his stomach dropped. It was Carrie's truck. The police took it in, hoping for clues like some hair, a stray fingerprint, something that could tell them where she had gone. But it was too clean, suspiciously clean, almost like someone had wiped it down on purpose. However, they did find a single fingerprint, but when they ran it, nothing came up. Weirdly, it was a dead end. Meanwhile, things were spiraling out of control. Dave and Liz were drowning in harassment. Calls, messages, emails. Someone was always watching, always threatening. It was relentless, and it pushed them back together in fear. Every time they went to the police, it was the same response: "We're working on it." But nothing changed, and worst of all, there was still no sign of Carrie. She never talked to anyone on call. Now many thought, since Carrie was too good with computers, maybe she was masking her location and encrypting her messages. Maybe she really didn't want to be found. The police started digging through her online activity, searching for a digital trail, but there was nothing. Just message after message that seemed off, like they were written by someone else. Then suddenly came a bombshell. And before we reveal that, let me remind you to subscribe to this channel, because that's the only support we need from you. The bombshell revelation was nothing but a Facebook post from Carrie herself that read, "I'm not missing. I just don't want to come home right now. I left on my own. Stop looking for me." The words were there, clear as day. But something felt wrong. The phrasing, the tone, it wasn't the way Carrie used to talk. But if Carrie wasn't writing these messages, then who was? Who is trying to appear Kareem, but not Carrie? And what's the purpose of all these? Months passed. Then, in August 2013, everything escalated again. Liz's house suddenly went up in flames. She had been moving out, so she and the kids weren't inside, but her pets were. Her 2 dogs, her cat, and her snake also never made it out. It was surely not an accident. Someone had set the fire on purpose. And right after, there came another message, another email, and another taunt. Carrie's family refused to give up. Even her son sent her a message, something only she would know. "What's my middle name? What was our first dog's name? Who was my best friend as a kid?" He waited, but no response came. But this revealed that whoever was behind the screen didn't know the answers. So, whoever it is, was not real Carrie. Eventually, after that, the messages slowed down. The threats weren't as frequent. And Dave? He started noticing things. Liz wasn't around as much. And the gun he had bought for protection? It was suddenly gone. Meanwhile, by April 2015, 2 new detectives stepped in, determined to crack the case. Years of evidence, emails, messages, police reports. It was a tangled mess without answers. So they split the investigation into two possibilities. One detective worked under the assumption that Carrie was still alive and orchestrating the chaos. The other went with a darker theory. Carrie had been dead all along, and someone else had been impersonating her. One question had haunted this case for years, dead or alive. Where was Carrie? But now another, even more disturbing one loomed. If Carrie wasn't the one sending those messages, then who was? And why? One day Liz had been out for a walk in the park trying to clear her head. Then out of nowhere, someone ambushed her. A gun went off and the bullet tore straight through her thigh. She collapsed but managed to scramble away, blood soaking her jeans. She was lucky to be alive. When the police arrived, she didn't hesitate. She knew exactly who had done it. It was Amy Flora, Dave's ex and the mother of his children. The same woman Liz had just accused of harassment. Now you see, it all made sense. Carrie was long gone. The emails were slowing down. Maybe Amy had been the real threat all along. The police checked Amy's house that night, her car. It was cold as it hadn't moved in hours. Neighbors? They said she never left. So, if Amy didn't do it, who the hell did? But suddenly, the new detectives stumbled over by sheer luck. Remember that picture of Carrie's truck, the one Dave found abandoned? Well, the police had been combing through Liz's phone, something she and Dave had handed over months earlier. And guess what they found? That same picture. But the date on the file showed it had been taken a whole month before the truck was actually discovered. Now that didn't make sense. How could Liz have a picture of the truck before it was found? And then something else was discovered, and hidden in the phone's deleted files was a video, and its title was Husband's Cheating. The location? Dave's apartment complex. The upload was traced back to Liz's IP address. It was all unraveling. Every email, every text, every Facebook post, every so-called message from Carrie was somehow leading back to one person. Not Amy, not Carrie, but Liz. But how is that possible? The final blow came from forensic evidence. Remember the fingerprint found in Carrie's abandoned car? The police had tested it. Turns out it wasn't Carrie's or Dave's. Neither Hewitt belonged to Amy, rather it was Liz's. And suddenly everything clicked. Liz hadn't been a victim. She hadn't been hunted. She was the one behind it all. For years, she had been impersonating Carrie, tormenting Dave psychotically, sending herself threats too, framing Amy. She had staged the entire nightmare, and that gunshot to her leg, could she have done that to herself too? The answer was a loud yes. But the real question wasn't just how far had Liz gone. It was, why? They told Liz they had found a body, and not just any body, remains that, according to initial analysis, could very well belong to Carrie Farver. The words hit like a punch, but Liz barely flinched. Instead, she leaned in, her voice low, speculative. "You think Amy could have done it?" she asked. "I mean, she was obsessed with Dave, right? She was in and out of his life all the time. If she was bold enough to shoot you, what's stopping her from doing something worse?" The police listened. They let her talk, and she did, feeding them theories, pointing fingers, nudging them in a direction she clearly wanted them to go. Liz wasn't just suggesting Amy might be involved. She was pushing the idea, almost like she needed them to believe it. Maybe they had found Carrie. Maybe they really did have evidence. But Liz's eagerness to shift the blame made them wonder, what did she know? Then Liz suddenly played her trump card. She pulled out emails. She had been receiving messages from Amy, she claimed. Emails that read like confessions. "I got a hold of Carrie," one said. "We drove in her car. I reached over and stabbed her in the stomach." The words were chilling, almost too vivid. Amy, if it really was her, described Carrie's final moments in disturbing detail. How she had begged to call Dave. How she had pleaded to speak to her family before she died. And the detail that stopped everyone cold, the yin-yang tattoo on Carrie's left thigh. How would Amy know that? The police had to be sure. So they went back to Carrie's abandoned car, this time looking for something they might have missed. And there it was. A massive blood stain hidden under the passenger seat covering. Tests confirmed that it was Carrie's blood. And now, the police knew they had their answer. Because if Liz had been playing the victim this whole time, if Amy was really the monster she was painting her out to be, then why did everything seem just a little too perfect? Why did Liz have those emails? Why was she so desperate to make Amy the villain? And then it hit them. Maybe those emails weren't sent by Amy at all. So for 4 years, Carrie Farver's friends and family kept receiving texts, emails, and messages from her. It wasn't from Carrie, but from Liz. Dave, the man both women had been involved with, was at the center of the chaos. He was getting messages from Carrie every day, hundreds of them, saying she was watching him, that she would hurt him, that she would kill Liz. Liz, too, insisted she was being harassed, and her house was vandalized, her car was spray-painted. She even claimed her house was set on fire. But no one ever actually saw Carrie, not once. Then, in 2016, police found the first real piece of evidence that shattered everything. Dave had an old tablet he hadn't used in years. He handed it over to investigators, thinking maybe they could find something on it. But it wasn't the tablet that mattered, it was a memory card inside. It had been wiped clean and reformatted. But forensic experts dug through the digital remains, uncovering a single chilling image. There was a foot, a dead foot with a tattoo of yin-yang. No doubt it was Carrie's foot. She had been dead the whole time. Plus, another chilling detail came from Carrie's mom, Nancy, too. Like others, she was also getting multiple messages, and one day, Nancy received a picture of a check. It was supposed to prove that Carrie had sold all her belongings. But when Nancy looked at the signature, she froze. The name on the check wasn't Carrie's, it was someone else named Shauna Golier. Who the hell was this Shauna Golier? And why is she undersigned in the sale of Carrie's belongings? Nancy took the check to the police. The name led them to someone else, someone who, oddly enough, had already been tangled up in Carrie's life. Shauna Golier was just an alias, the real name Liz. The same Liz who had been dating Dave before Carrie entered the picture. The case against Liz exploded from there. Even with all the digital evidence, Liz's lawyer argued that there was no proof of murder. No one had seen Carrie being killed. There were no witnesses or no crime scene. The blood in Carrie's car? Maybe it had been there for years. Maybe it was from an accident. But the investigators had one more trick up their sleeve. Among the fake messages Liz had sent, there was one that slipped up. One that contained a detail only the killer could know. Hidden in the mountains of emails and texts, Liz had described the way Carrie died, and how her body had been disposed of. This was details the police had never released during their investigation, because that's what helped them find the killer. And finally, they got her. In 2017, Shauna Liz Golier was convicted of first-degree murder. She had killed Carrie Farver, taken over her identity, and tormented the people around her, just to keep a man who wasn't even committed to her. She was sentenced to life in prison. But even with Liz locked away, one question still remains. Where is Carrie Farver's body? To this day, her remains have never been found. But even after all these, there was another obvious question. Why did Liz do all these? The simple answer is jealousy. Liz wanted Dave, and Carrie was in the way. So she lured Carrie into a trap, killed her, and then did something unthinkable. She became her. Why? Because for years she wanted to establish the illusion that Carrie was still out there, dangerous and unstable. To make the story believable, Liz even went as far as harassing herself, setting fires, and vandalizing her own home just to sell the lie. By the time police pieced it together, Liz had already woven a web so elaborate that reality and fiction blurred into one. But without a body, could they prove murder? The jury also thought so. In 2017, Liz Golier got life in prison, plus 18 to 20 years of sentencing. The case was closed, but the thing is, personalities like Liz are not uncommon. Maybe you also know one or two such people in your friend circle, family members or dear ones. Are all of them this desperate and horrible? The most concerning thing is, how would you know who is like Liz and who's not? Share your thoughts in the comments. While this was one extremely thought-provoking case today because this is something you also can fall prey any day, we have another case where people kill others just to get a thrill out of it or to satisfy their weird fetishes. And they don't even spare their dear ones or family members too. Concerned enough? Then watch this next video. Subscribe to this channel for more chilling true crime cases. See you in the next.